Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. It's great having you on the channel with me today. We're going to be talking about Hurricane Erin, Category 2. How close does it get to North Carolina, Southeast Canada here? We'll get into all the details, the impacts, also watching our next tropical disturbance. Will this be another recurve, a fish storm? Also, this out here, this is Invest 99L. Will this hold on and make it all the way into the Caribbean and potentially the Gulf as we head towards the end of August into the beginning of September? Let's get into it. And here we are with the infrared satellite view of Hurricane Erin. You can see it's a Category 2 where it got some explosion of showers and thunderstorms, especially on the north and east side of this system. You can see it's still pretty symmetrical. Been going through some eyewall replacement cycles as well. So yeah, the storm is going to slowly, it is starting to slow down here, as you can see. And looking at that, the overall satellite photo, you can see how big this storm is, all these wispy clouds. So yeah, it's a very large circulation. And as we continue to go through time here, that storm is going to cause some major wave action along the East Coast. Now, this is our next disturbance. This is going to be heading more into this direction as we go through time. And there is our big old Invest 99L. Let's zoom in on that. And here's Invest 99L. Thanks to Tropical Tidbits here on our infrared satellite. Here's the Cape Verde Islands. Look at this ball of convection. I have to say, this is looking very, very well organized already. All right, so starting off with Erin here, that's going to be the big story, at least through the next couple days. You can see the GFS now wobbling just to the west of exact path. Pretty well on target, though. But look at the outer bands of this. Yeah, they're going to start reaching parts of the outer banks as we get over the next day or two. So watch out. Heed those evacuation orders as well as those water rises. Intense wave, rip currents, extreme east-northeasterly winds here and northeast winds as this thing, shifts back around. So watch out. This is not looking very good. Be careful if you're out on the beaches. Look how the GFS takes this safely away from Nova Scotia here in Newfoundland. The Euro, which I'll show you in a couple minutes from now, is much closer. So we'll keep an eye on it here. It remains a Category 2 pretty much through the forecast period. Now, this behind it, this is the tropical disturbance. And it does start to impact parts of the Northeast Caribbean islands as we head through the 22nd into the 23rd. So we get into late week, early weekend. GFS going west of guidance here. So we'll have to watch it, but then it does start to spin it up more towards the north as it gets around this subtropical high. So yeah, could it impact Bermuda? Very, very possible at this point. It does start to look beyond that, though. Could this be a fish storm or maybe impact Nova Scotia and Newfoundland? It's looking like a Newfoundland hit right around August 27th. So we'll have to watch out for that. So not entirely a fish storm. Now, the storm I wanted to get to here. This is going to be a very interesting one, very dynamic. And will it make it across the Atlantic? That's the tough part because it does get into a little bit of a hostile atmosphere behind Erin and our disturbance here. But here it is, pretty formidable to start out. We have that pretty good chance. Behind it, also looking at a tropical wave. So this is what I'm looking at over the next week and a half. It does start to fall apart a little bit around the 21st and the 22nd. It does start to encounter, some upwelling of that cooler water. Also some wind shear happening here as well. So that's something we'll have to keep an eye on. However, it does seem to hold together here on the GFS. And the one behind it as well will have to be watched. Although that does start to break off and go more northwesterly here. More of a fish storm. So as we get through about the 26th into the 27th, you see these showers moving across parts of the Caribbean here. Gulf looks clear as a bell through this forecast period, at least through the 27th. But you do start to get some of this activity spinning up around Trinidad, Tobago, and across the rest of the Lesser Antilles, Grenada, Barbados. And right around this time period, we start to see more of an explosion of showers and thunderstorms. And at this point, it's likely the energy that traversed across parts of the MDR of the Atlantic. And this is by the 28th. Look at this heavy shower thunderstorm activity. We're starting to resemble a tropical system here. European is hinting at this too. I'll show you this in a couple minutes from now, but It is starting to pick up on this shower and thunderstorm activity flaring back up as we get into a much warmer Caribbean, also slackening wind shear. That would be positive for tropical development, positive signals. Here's Jamaica. This could be a big rainmaker for you in Jamaica, whether it develops or not, right around the 29th into the 30th. And there it is, moving a little bit west-northwesterly here, right around the 30th, and approaching the Cancun all the way down to Honduras and Belize here. Look at this, heavy rain, and it does start to close off a low here on the GFS as it reemerges back into the Bay of Campeche on our last frame right around September 1st. So plenty of time to watch it. I do caution you, though, because it does have to come across the entire Atlantic. And the storms have been, this season, as time goes on, shifting more and more north and east. So that's a trend we'll have to keep an eye on. Will this break that trend? Well, if it does remain weak enough, it can pretty much evade any weakness in any subtropical ridge up here. So, Caribbean, I'm becoming a little increasingly concerned. Am I concerned about the Gulf just yet? Not really, but please stay tuned. I think we've got something out here that we definitely need to watch. All right, so thanks for Tropical Tidbits. For our European model analysis, here is Hurricane Erin. And yeah, it's going to continue to wobble deepen a little bit. It's going to get very close to North Carolina here. Look at that. The European taking it the closest. That is very, very close. Obviously, let's back it up here a second. We're watching our tropical disturbance out here. And we also got Invest 99L. This is the one I'm really concerned about. This one is just going to, looks like, mainly be a potential fish storm, maybe a problem to Bermuda. We'll keep an eye on it here. But here we go. As we go through time, look at this. Look how close Erin gets to the northeast and mid-Atlantic coast. That's a pressure gradient that's really intense. So there's going to be a massive wind and wave action, stiff northeast winds, rip currents. Be careful. Might not be a very good idea to get out on the beaches, especially to swim. So as we go through time, let me just show you something here. We're just backing this up and then progressing. Look at this. So yeah, this is going to brush, Erin is going to brush Nova Scotia and Newfoundland here as we head through the weekend. So that's something we're going to have to keep a close watch on. Here's our intertropical convergence zone. We're watching our Invest 99L here. That's going to start to get towards the Eastern Caribbean as we go through time. And this is the big issue. Look at how far towards Europe Erin gets up here. That's pretty remarkable, August 27th. But here it is. Erin could be a formidable force here in the Caribbean, and some of the models are picking this up into a hurricane. Also, intertropical convergence zone remains extremely active. And then look at the Gulf as well, opening up. I think there it is, September 1st. Look at that. We could be looking at a storm in the Gulf, the Caribbean. We got to watch Invest 99L. There's also a low pressure, let me show you here, that tries to develop along the southeast coast. It looks coastal at first, but then we might have to watch it. It might try to go tropical. But look at this snapshot, September 3rd. You got all this activity, and you're just lining up all of these, look at, there's a big tropical wave over here. All right, so here we are zooming in on the Caribbean, the Gulf, southeast coast. Yeah, look how close that is. Thursday. This is Thursday midday. Outer Banks. It's going to be so close. Delmarva as well. So here we go. There is that tropical disturbance northeast of the Caribbean islands. Pretty dry around Jamaica, the Cayman Islands. A few showers around Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. Also Central America, those afternoon and evening showers and thunderstorms through Sunday. But here we go. This is what I want to show you here. This is the feature we're going to watch as it moves through Trinidad, Tobago, the Lesser Antilles, as it pretty much drifts westward here throughout August 27th and the 28th. So we'll have to watch for this making it all the way across the Caribbean. And does it try to bend a little bit north towards the Gulf? There is hinting that it will right around September 1st. But I do caution you, this is very far out. So a lot can change between now and then. Stay tuned. But yeah, look at the tropical downpours increasing as we go through the first week of September. And looking at intensity scale of Erin, yeah, category 2 likely, maybe at times trying to get back up to 3, but it's mainly a 2. And then as it gets into the North Atlantic, a category 1. All right, so Invest 99L by the Cape Verde Islands. This is the one we're going to be watching. I think this is the one that could get in the Caribbean and cause some issues, potentially a hurricane in a week and a half. We'll have to keep an eye on it here. And our sea surface temperatures, yeah, you can see where Erin has been here. Lots of upwelling, but look where Erin is going. High sea surface temperature content. Gulf, look at the Caribbean. The Caribbean is on fire. I'm a bit worried here. Look at the Cape Verde areas, though. Yeah, you've been getting some upwelling, but that is probably only going to be temporary. And here we go, the Western Caribbean, Central America, Western Caribbean islands. Yeah, it's pretty dry week here. Jamaica does start to get a few showers by Thursday and Friday, and especially into the weekend and next week. But yeah, it'll amount here on the European model about 60, 70 millimeters here. Same for Dominican Republic. Most areas 40 to 60, with 60 to 80 here into the west central portions. Puerto Rico as well, we're probably talking about an inch or two. Look at Honduras, though, 150, 160 millimeters. Same for Belize here. And Nicaragua. Cancun, you're only eking out about 60 millimeters. Look at the Cayman Islands, though. Very dry, right around 25 to 30 millimeters. Bahamas, you're missing out on a tremendous amount of rain here as Erin goes to the northeast of you, but you're still eking out 60 to 80 millimeters on average. All right, so looking at the Western Caribbean here, if we could put this into motion, here we go. So as we continue through the rest of the week into the weekend, we do get some showers cropping up early next week across Jamaica, parts of the Cayman Islands. Also, west central Dominican Republic as well. Look at Belize and Honduras really filling in with moisture. And this showing up right about here on the 30th and 31st. This is actually the flare-up of Invest 99L or whatever becomes of it. So that is going to be really interesting to watch this. We could be looking, if this traverses all the way across the Atlantic, we could be looking at some tremendous rainfall around Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Honduras here, Dominican Republic, Haiti. Some of these areas, look at this, in excess of 115 to 120 millimeters of rainfall. And here we go to the Eastern Caribbean for your European run. Here's our tropical disturbance that we're going to be looking at. Also, Invest 99L behind it, which is the thing I'm really interested in here. Because by early next week, it starts to move through the Trinidad-Tobago area upward to St. Vincent and these areas, Barbados. Watch out, Trinidad. It could get really interesting here. Through the southern and central Caribbean islands. Look at this. Some areas upwards of 120 to 130 millimeters. And here we go. We're looking at the Eastern Caribbean with the GFS. Yeah, our first disturbance brings some heavy rains. Gusty winds to the northeast Caribbean islands through the Virgin Islands here in particular. Right around 60, 70, maybe as much as 80 millimeters. Then, though, whatever happens with Invest 99L, look at that. That surge across Trinidad, Tobago areas here. Look at this. Some areas upwards of 170 millimeters all the way up through parts of Barbados, St. Vincent here. Watch out. Some of these areas could approach 100 millimeters, especially if we get this gusty tropical wave, tropical disturbance moving through. Puerto Rico, you're right around 1, 2, maybe 3 inches. Look at this. Virgin Islands up towards 100 millimeters in some areas. All right, here into the Western Pacific, we are watching Tropical Depression 18. This is going to affect the southern Japanese islands over the next several days. It's not going to be a very fast mover. You can see most of Japan is pretty dry. Same thing for Seoul, South Korea here across the entire Korea Peninsula here. And then up here into northern Japan initially until we get to the synoptic system. You can see this storm just hanging out. Also, a lot of tremendous deep monsoon moisture here across the Philippines. It doesn't look like anything's really going to come much out of these, except for a few areas of low pressure. We'll have to watch. Maybe there might be some spin-ups here. But here we go. This storm affecting mainly the northern Japanese islands as we head to the 26th, 27th. Look how clear it is, though, from Shanghai to Seoul to Tokyo during this end of August. This is crazy. Yeah, most of the rain is bottled up here well north of Japan, heading into the northern Japanese islands. By about the 29th, though, look what starts to crop up here. We see the potential for typhoon action. You can see an eye trying to form. And here on our last frame, you can see it approaching the southern Japanese islands. And here we are with the Western Pacific rainfall outlook. What are we looking for here? Well, here we go. Yeah, Philippines, monsoon up to Vietnam, South China. It looks like, for the most part, the southern Japanese islands get the most into the northern Japan, but especially come the end of the month, you can see parts of Seoul, South Korea here getting upwards of 100 and 150 millimeters. Look at northern parts of Japan, though, upwards of 400 millimeters here. So really, really intense rainfall as we head towards the end of the month. Our future radar looking like this as we continue on into the overnight hours of Tuesday night into Wednesday. You can see, yeah, all eyes are going to be on Hurricane Erin here. Got some showers and thunderstorms across the Gulf Coast region, eastern Texas. More importantly, up here through 2 a.m. across parts of the Northeast. So look at this. If we go through 9 and 10 p.m., showers and thunderstorms moving through parts of Northeast and Central Ohio here, Western New York, Western Pennsylvania. As we head into the morning hours through 8 a.m., it's going to be a rainy day. I know many of you probably don't believe it because it's bone dry in many areas, but this could be some welcome rain. It looks like, some convection as well through 1 p.m. here right around Scranton, Binghamton, Catskills, Poconos. Look at this as we head through 5 p.m. So, yeah, we're continuing to line up these showers and thunderstorms across the Appalachians as well, and down in through parts of the Deep South. Look at Texas dotted, as well as Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, northern Georgia, western North Carolina. Of course, we're going to be watching our system off the coastline here. As we continue through midnight on Wednesday night, we're watching those showers and thunderstorms knock on the door to New York City. So you can see some of them are nearly stationary as we head overnight. Now, the big story is going to be the outer bands. Look at this. Right around 11 p.m., we do start to get some of these outer bands reaching the Outer Banks and slightly inland as well. So here it is, very ominous as we head through 8 a.m. on Thursday morning. You can see those outer bands. As far north, we're kind of magnifying a line right along the South Jersey shore through parts of Delmarva and Virginia Beach area. So watch out. There's going to be some very stiff northeast winds here. All right, severe weather outlook for your Wednesday. Yeah, it's just a pretty marginal risk here. Actually marginal up here, I should say, in the Northern Plains. It's actually just a generalized risk. Nothing really severe for your Wednesday. And here we are getting into Thursday. Yeah, that marginal risk expands across the Great Plains. Derek Rentschler from Lebanon County, Pennsylvania. This is in Grantville, PA. Rainbow on a pond, August 17th. Look at this. This is beautiful. Nice captures. Look at, you got the lake here. A pond, I should say. It's a nice, good-sized pond. Look at how green and lush the vegetation is. You got this dark backdrop here and some nice rainbow action here. Very, very nice captures here, Derek. That definitely makes a lot of our days today. So keep on clicking those photos. Beautiful. And here we go, picking up where our feature radar left off for the GFS. There is those outer bands hitting parts of the Outer Banks here as we head through, later on Wednesday into Thursday. So watch out. Thursday morning, it does start to pull away. It is going to slow down a bit, as you can see. Lots of showers and thunderstorms behind it as a train of tropical moisture tries to bounce back here, so to speak, as we head through Friday into Saturday. You can see right around South Carolina. We do try to get some sort of a spin up going here. Could this be something trying to go tropical? It's possible. Following right on the heels, it does try to spin up into something. Also, we'll be watching our next potential storm behind it. So that goes up towards the Canadian Maritimes as well. And as we continue through the end of the month, it's going to be a really quiet weather pattern setting in up here across parts of the East, Midwest, Great Lakes. We just have this one storm in town right around the 29th that does come up from the plains and Mississippi River Valley. These storms stay pretty much north into Canada, but look at this, right around the northeast for your 30th. That's a fast-moving storm. Also, another one, stronger storm moving through the northern Great Lakes right around September 1st, dragging a cold front through. Some of these look like they could be strong to severe. It's also showing up on the European model. I'll show you momentarily. But as we go through September 2nd into the 3rd here, you can see, yeah, lots of tropical moisture across the southeast. Look at this. This is like a massive high. So picking up where our future radar left off, as we can pick up a Thursday here. Here it is, the European run, so close to the East Coast with Hurricane Erin. You know the beaches here are going to be ravaged. And of course, those mandatory evacuations out here and Cape Hatteras area, definitely keep watch. Not good. But here we go. You know, with that intense wave and wind action moving away over the weekend, behind it here, it leaves lots of showers and thunderstorms across the southeast popping up, especially Florida. Look at this up here into the northeast. Let me just back up. This feature, it's like a short wave. This thing gets cranking. You got the short wave, and then you got the front. So here it is on the 24th, Sunday. Could end up being a very stormy weekend here across Pennsylvania, New York, parts of New England, as a wave of low pressure tries to run along it. But through the 26th into the 27th, we start to suppress these thunderstorms, these stronger storms to the south. And look at this, very dry up here to the north. So a much different pattern as we head through the end of the month. Look at this tropical moisture, though, heading up the coast towards the Outer Banks. This is something we'll have to keep a watch on. Could we see a tropical storm form out of this? European model's hinting at it here. Look at this, right around September 1st, moving right up the coast, and another area tropical wave gets into the eastern Gulf. So, yeah, things are going to remain active here in the tropics from the Gulf all the way up the East Coast here. And heavy rain outlook. European model here. Yeah, so we're going to get some rain across the northeast here. And New England as we head on into the day Wednesday and Thursday. Now look at this, mainly Wednesday. And then look at the southeast. Of course, we're going to get some heavy rain, the Outer Banks, rain and wind. And look at next week. We pile on more rain here into parts of New York, Pennsylvania, western New England, where we definitely have had a dry spell here. Look at Florida, though. Right around September 1st into the 3rd. Yeah, so here's the East Coast. 2 to 3 inches in some of these locations. Northeast Ohio, about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. Look at Florida, though. Some of these areas upwards of 8 or 9 inches. We'll have to keep an eye on it here. All right, so we take a look at rainfall amounts here. On the GFS models, we head through the end of the month. There's some rainfall cropping up behind Hurricane Erin across the Carolinas here, so we'll watch out for that. Also here into the northeast, but yeah, this is going to be the biggest problem. Sitting offshore here, GFS is a bit further east, whereas the European is a bit further west. But still, the Gulf Coast seeing 1 to 2, maybe 3 inches. Look at this across southern Oklahoma, 4 to 6 inches. And about 2 to 3 inches up here into parts of upstate New York. And before we continue with more weather coverage, don't forget, if you did make it this far in the video, I thank you. Smash that like button, everyone. It really does help. Please, question or comment down below. I love to read your questions or comments and respond to them. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Subscribe, bell notification button so you're alerted with all my future weather video updates, and link in the description down below and at the end of this video for my Hurricane 2025 Outlook. How many hurricanes and storms could we be looking at total? Let's get into more weather. And here we go with the upper air pattern. Yeah, all eyes are going to be on our system. Thankfully deflecting. It's pretty much a miracle at this point because it's more attracted to this up here. You can see how it's kind of trying to do the straight line thing. This trough up here is leading this storm. If we didn't have that trough up there, oh boy, things would be really bad for us along the East Coast. Thankfully, it's going to steer it safely out to sea for the most part with tremendous wave and rip current action, stiff northeast winds. Look at what happens next week, right around the 26th. We have a negatively tilted trough. That means stormy times are ahead. Also cooler temperatures. And that trough is going to intensify. So ultimately, what does that mean if we do have any, if we do have any tropical storms out here? in the Western Atlantic. They're going to recurve. But if we get any down here in the Caribbean, they're going to be drawn north like a magnet to the Gulf here. And as we go through the first week of September, look at this ridge up here into eastern Canada. That's signifying some, blocking going on. That would signify that any hurricane action, tropical moisture could get hung up here into eastern North America. And our NAO index here, yeah, we're very negative, very stormy. That's going more neutral and slightly positive through the end of the month into the beginning of September. And here we go with our MJO index. A look at this. So we're right around phase 2. We're going to be heading to 3, 4. And some of the models are bringing us back towards 1 and 8. So we'll have to keep an eye on it here. I'm still thinking we're going to head to 4 and 5 here. Quiet times are ahead. All right, so if we take a look at our Canadian weather outlook here, as we continue through the 20th into the 21st, there is some rain trying to develop here across Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. Initially, that's some good news for the wildfire situation, but unfortunately, that moves pretty far to the east. Obviously, all eyes are going to be on Nova Scotia, Newfoundland here, and Prince Edward Island as we head into the 22nd into the 23rd. The GFS is more optimistic in taking Hurricane Erin off further to the south and east, but the European is a bit closer. So we'll keep an eye on it here. Hopefully we don't get much of anything. This becomes an upper level low across Ontario and Quebec. You can see as we head through the 24th, but I caution you, look what's happening behind it. Yeah, this is some nice weather, but this drying is going to lead to more wildfire problems. And look how long it lasts here through the 26th, 27th. All of this trophiness sets up across eastern Canada, so we literally set up this big warming trend, and unfortunately that is going to start the massive wildfire potential back. In British Columbia, you do start to get some rain by about the 29th and 30th, but unfortunately here, our last frame, you can see Alberta, Saskatchewan, these areas out here east of the Rocky Mountains are not getting much of anything. Southern Ontario and Quebec, that's where you're going to see the rainfall. And your Canadian rainfall outlook here is going to be really close here. Nova Scotia, Newfoundland here with Erin. We'll keep an eye on it for you. So far, the European has a very sharp gradient with almost no rain, but there's going to be a lot of wind and wave action. Look at out here. Alberta's starting to dry up. That's not good news here. More like Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, mainly in the north. Look at that, up towards Hudson Bay. Same thing with the Pacific system. I'm a little concerned that we're going to reload another area of wildfires out here as things start to dry out. That's not good. Look at southern Ontario and Quebec, except southeastern Quebec here. You do get upwards of 60 to 100 millimeters. Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Prince Edward Island is going to be very close for you. Southern New Brunswick as well. And looking at our temperatures here, this is so much better. Look at this. Even some 60s here in upstate New York. That's with the clouds and the rain. But look at lots of 70s across the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and to the Northeast. We've shoved these 90s all the way down along the Gulf Coast and Gulf Coast states. We do have some 90s, though, all the way up to South Dakota. But look at this. This is so nice into your Thursday and watch into Friday here. Yeah, we do start to get some heat trying to build throughout the Ohio Valley, mid to upper 80s again. But look what's shooting behind it here. More cooler air. This is some really good news into Saturday. Yeah, we do see some readings into the upper 80s here, the eastern Great Lakes. But the good news is I don't see any long-term heat waves. Look at these 60s up here in the parts of the Midwest. This is crazy. It's actually kind of nice, but look at this. August 25th. Yeah, you do see the 70s. Oh, look at that. That is some nice weather. Extended forecast from our hometown viewers. Upper Susquehanna, River Valley of New York and Pennsylvania from Binghamton to Scranton. Look at this. Yeah. So we're finally potentially going to get a rainy day here Wednesday. We definitely need the rain. Potentially up to a half to 3/4 of an inch as the front moves through into Thursday. Look at these temperatures, though. Much better, 70s. And then by Friday and Saturday, we'll be in the low 80s, mid 80s on Saturday. But still, this is much better. Unfortunately, Sunday looks like showers and thunderstorms will develop, so watch out for that, especially in the afternoon and evening. Plenty more weather to come. Here is a look at my affiliate. Check out these awesome, amazing maps. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, super thanks. You can smash that super thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone, share that video, subscribe if you haven't, smash that like button.